Welcome, Legion, to my review of Wolfenstein Youngblood. Wolfenstein Youngblood is a continuation of the Wolfenstein Remastered series, and it was released in July 2019, and on Stadia as 2019 as launch title, which, who cares, right? Stadia. Anyways, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One all got a release. It was released pretty much mixed reviews. Now, right away, you assume control of either of Blazkowicz's two daughters, Jessie or Sophia, and through the entire game, you'll be basically doing these kind of like Gears of War style switch pushing kind of things with your significant other sister. But also, she'll be able to help you out in combat. Now, the story is that B.J. Blazkowicz has gotten captured by the Nazis, allegedly, somehow. And the sister's here of this woman who is holed up in France, fighting these Nazis and their occupation in, the area of which they are contained. So they decide to mount up for their resistance. Now, right away, I have a problem with the story. The girls received some combat training from, BJ and Anya. They're super crazy parents that have been in very, very many combat situations. But the fact that they can pick up and use any weapon that they come across and just have all these superpowers, even while wearing a suit, which I'll get into later, it just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. Now, they do have this friend that they grew up with, which is their main contact, and her name is, she's Grace's daughter, and what she'll be doing is she'll be basically their intel provider. She's going to break down the schematics of everything else, because apparently when the government subsided after Nazi rule, there was no CIA, so the CIA was ran by Grace, and Grace was the woman from Wolfenstein: The New Colossus that helped them out through, all what they went through with the Nazis, and basically she was like a stand-up resistance fighter, and they said, hey, why don't we just make you leader of CIA in the end of the last game, because, you know the ins and outs. So, after that, she became kind of like the co-founder of the CIA and kind of ran it, and her daughter became this like ultra mega nerd that was able to like piece a lot of stuff together and use their technology as well. So she becomes their main contact. She becomes the girl Sophia's and Jesse's main way of transportation, way of intel. And they hook up with the Resistance, and the Resistance is pretty cool. They have this underground layer with lots of graffiti for some reason. I don't know, whatever. I guess to like get to like the France Viva la Resistance kind of thing. And through this hub, you go through these different missions, and these characters talk to you in a very generic way. And basically, they just say, oh, these are my feelings. But what it really breaks down to is, hey, there's Nazis out here. Go kill them. Can you kill them for me? That'd be great. Thanks, buddy. So addressing the other thing that I mentioned earlier about the suit, you are equipped with the suit that apparently updates somehow, making the game some sort of RPG-ish. And what really bothered me about this, besides the fact that it's like, I don't know, in your face all the time, and so is your shared lives, which I'll get to in a moment, is that it just clusters the screen with all these interfaces, and that's something that the other Wolfenstein games never did. You had your knife, you had this, that's all you had. But now, you can turn them off, yeah, but like the default is that they're shown, and if you turn them off, you don't know how many revives you have, you don't know what powers you have, so it's very cluttered, and still, enemies get stuck in screens and stuff like that pretty easily, and it's very irritating. I suppose someone likes this sort of thing. Someone likes these kind of like mundane RPG elements, but they feel very out of place for a Wolfenstein game. They feel very out of place. And yeah, you can go to the store and you can buy things to level up, but honestly, by the time I started the 5th mission, I had just ran through every situation, every combat situation so aggressively and killed all the enemies, grinding through these like really terrible encounters with them, that I had such an OP character. I was able to just run up to people and melee them and cut them in half with my knife. And my knife that's a good thing to level up, by the way. Your knife can instant kill most enemies if you level up on the way. So that's the first thing you want to do. Forget all the weapons. That's secondary. Your knife can instant kill people. And your shotgun. You can just hip fire everybody. So by the time that you get to like the 5th mission, since enemies for some reason in every environment respawn, you can just be so overpowered. You can just hip fire kill everyone with the shotgun. I mean, even the biggest, baddest enemies, you can just throw the incendiary rounds on there, throw knives at them, like maybe like shoot off their weapons, and then that's it. I mean, you just hip fire them, and that's the end of it. It's so easy to kill them, and it's so easy to kill common enemies so early in the game that it makes the game kind of a joke. But I guess that's just the RPG player in me. But I was beating like the final boss and like all the later missions that were supposed to be difficult with such ease by just running up and meleeing people, because my health was like 200% and my armor was like 200%. My melee was so powerful. The knives would like throw people back from some kind of gravitational blast. So it's futuristic. It's like very cyberpunky. I mean, you can still go through the whole thing very stealthy. And you can turn invisible and have all those perks. But I'm going to tell you, like, the only reason you should be able to get the stealth perks at all is just, like, the areas that's almost mandatory to get around. But almost always you can just go into combat with no problem at all. Again, your knife is so powerful, it's ridiculous. There's really no reason not to level it up. Another thing is, going back to the shared lives that you see on the screen here, the 3 hearts. Basically, if you die, you don't really die. So 2 things could happen. You can get revived by your sister, which doesn't take any shared lives. And normally, if it's the AI, they prioritize you and they'll run right to you. It's some sort of like here's a war situation where even though they're getting shot at by a bunch of stuff, they want to make sure that you're the one, staying alive. So they run to you. Or if you both go down, you lose a shared life. Now, basically, that doesn't revive both of you. It just revives one of you. So if it's you, which it is when you're not the AI, it basically means that you have to run over and revive her still, but then you don't die. But keep in mind, if they bleed out, then they are dead, and you will fail the mission because you can't go on with your sister. There's some situations where it's just literally impossible without your sister, like activating the shared lives or activating a crate. So if she dies, you die. Now, you can increase the perks to make it so she takes longer to live and takes longer to bleed out. But, I mean, honestly, it's still like 60 seconds by default, and that's like a really long time. And if you've done what I said and leveled up your shotgun and your knife, I mean, you're gonna be fine. Enemies follow you around the map when they chase you, but they don't follow you around the map in other situations. So basically you can just like run to a room and they'll lose track of you for some reason, even though you're like wearing a robotic suit that can like turn invisible and like jump up walls and stuff like that. It makes a lot of noise in general. For some reason they can't hear that, so they lose you in the next room. Now the AI isn't the best, but that's okay because it's a Wolfenstein game. It's mindless shooting. People forget that. I will address that sometimes the sisters do say shit that's kind of annoying. Like, they're like, hey, hell yeah, dude, but like, and I know Angry Joe and like Dez and all that, they all made fun of that. But like, honestly, that's just how I talk, so it didn't really bother me. In fact, it didn't bother me at all, if I'm being honest. So I thought it was funny. But they're 2 girls that are like, maybe 18 from Texas. I mean, they're stupid. They're supposed to be stupid. Teenage girls are supposed to be silly and fun and like have, they're having a good time. This is their first like real time out of their parents' like basically combat farm. So they're going to be a little silly. And I thought it was funny. I thought it was cute. Good for them for having fun. So people gripe about that. But I think that's just because like a lot of, like, I'm not saying all men. I'm just saying like a lot of guys like want male protagonists, and I think that's another thing. They're so used to BJ Blazkowicz being this powerful big man, and some of them probably couldn't accept the fact that it was like, two women. But like, I thought they were great. And then for the record, he is in the game, so I mean, good for them. But I thought what they said was really fun, and it was really cool to like work side by side for someone in the Wolfenstein game. Although I feel in many situations in this game, my character was so powerful I could get by. But I appreciate it. Sometimes they'll say stuff like, "Hey, thanks sis, thanks for picking me up," or "I love you," and then in hallways they'll dance. The loading screens of them dancing or like fighting, and people hated that, and people thought it was silly. But you know what? It's funny. It's hilarious, and it's the 80s, so like, come on. What's really funny about it too, also highlighting the 80s environment, is that since it's the 80s, there's all kind of records and stuff, but since it's Germany and France and stuff, it's all in German, so you hear like everyone wants to rule the world, but it's like in German, and it's just funny. I don't know. And a lot of the propaganda is just popular movies from the 80s, but it's also in German. So the gunplay is smooth. The weapons are varied. I'll go to the weapons now real quick, I guess, since everyone's waiting for the weapons. Standard machine gun with the scope. You can modify to fire heavier rounds. Pistols that are silenced. Pistols that fire like incendiary rounds. Sorry for spoiling the final boss there, but here we go. Shotguns that are pump action. Shotguns that are automatic. And it's just a really cool system for that as well. You can modify the different rounds. Sniper rifles. You can pick up the different kind of weapons that are for the Germans heavies carry as you level up, and basically carry them around. A lot of them are lasers, and use a lot of those to pass a lot of the puzzles in the game. But altogether, it's an amazing package. Even if you don't have the co-op package, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's very entertaining to watch. It's one of those games that's like Doom Eternal, where if someone's watching, they normally won't get bored because there's just so much crap happening all the time. I would recommend it. Thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. This is going to be a set of reviews this week, so thank you for sticking around, and I will see you next time. Also, check out these other videos and subscribe.